Wait. Let's rewind a second. So this is supposed to be a review of 3 75mm Leica M-mount lenses plus the Hasselblad 100mm f2.2 to find out once and for all which is the winner when it comes to the best portrait lens for my style of model photography. So the day started as normal, taking photos with all 3 lenses. Then we noticed we had a problem. So here you can see photos shot with the Leica Summilux 75 1.4 on the Leica SL2S, raw on the left, preset on the right, the usual. These images are shot with the Typox Samara 75 1.4, again raw left, preset added on the right, and finally the Nocturne raw left, preset added on the right. So those all look great. So what is the problem? Well, here's the Hasselblad images, and again, make up your mind which you think are the best. The problem we've got is it didn't seem to matter what we used. It was the light that seemed to be the winner of this test. The light just made everything look amazing. So this review that was supposed to be the review of 3 75mm portrait lenses actually ended up being a rave review of the light that we used to make these photos. Hey guys, Matt here from MrLeica.com. If you're a regular viewer, you know that I'm a model photographer and I also teach Leica photography workshops and model photography workshops. One of my regular students booked me for one of my full days in London. The original plan was for him to bring his 75mm Summilux so I could test it against my 75mm Typox and 75mm Nocturne lens, Voigtlander lens. And then I thought, right, to make it even more interesting, I'd also take a medium format Hasselblad camera, which has got a 100mm lens, which gives me around 75-ish equivalent with the bigger sensor. And then we could really see which was the best lens, and he would know whether or not he wanted to get the Typox lens. And so that was the plan. Everything looked good. So he brought his lens, I brought my lenses. And what we soon realized is all of these lenses are fantastic. And it wasn't so much about the lens, it was the lighting that we used when taking the portrait photos. And so it just so happened that I suggested to Sandeep, for this particular day, I'll bring my tube lighting. I recently got some tube lights from Viltrox. There's one lighting me at the moment. And I thought we could have a play around with those and see how they are for portraits. As someone that teaches portrait lighting, the first thing that really struck me was the quality of light from these LED strips is so diffused, it basically looks like daylight. And so all the photos, again, that you saw in the intro, they were shot 50% daylight, 50% one LED tube light, or maybe 2 LED tube lights, depending on the setup. And you couldn't really tell the difference in terms of the fall off on the skin and the rendering, whether it was very big diffused daylight or a small tube light. And so what started off as a day where I was going to test 3 75mm lenses for like a mount on the Leica SL2S soon progressed into, wow, these lights are really good. It didn't really matter what lens we were using. And so what I'll do is I will need to revisit the lens test, because I know a lot of you are interested in my lens tests, and if you're a new viewer, I've done about 500 plus videos, many of those like M-mount lens tests. I have done a full video on the Typox Samara 75 1.4, and I have done a full video on the Voigtlander Nocturne 75 1.5 already, but I still haven't done a video on the classic, the famous Leica Summilux 75 1.4. Peter Coulson let me test his lens when we were traveling together a couple of years ago in Europe. I've then used it on a couple of workshops where students have brought the lens for me to borrow, to try out, to give my thoughts on. People seem to care about my thoughts on various lenses, so often they bring lenses and then I'll borrow it and give my view, or ideally try and make a video so they can see like more detailed side-by-side testing and how the lens is compared to lens B, lens C, etc. So that was the plan for today's video, but instead, yeah, the real winner wasn't the lenses, because they're all fantastic in their own right. The winner was actually the far cheaper LED tube lighting. So lots of brands make these lights. I originally bought the LED tube lights mostly as a YouTuber. I'm always late to the party on these things, and if you've seen any cool YouTubers in the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of them have got like LED tube lights in the background, kind of making their sets look a bit more interesting. So is that right? I need to get cool and get myself some tube lights. So these lights are made by Viltrox. I can put a link below to Viltrox. They're like the standard RGB tube lights that do all the usual stuff. They have slip-on grids, which is really good if you want to control the light, because light is great, but it's not until you can control the light that it gets really interesting, especially in a small space. when we're shooting outside in the photos that you saw, because it's outside, I didn't bother attaching the grids because I was basically using it as like a big light source, the equivalent of the daylight. So yeah, so we had one model in the morning outside and I was teaching available light plus additional light. And then we had one model in the afternoon and we were doing light in the room plus additional light. So like room lights plus tube lights. And yeah, they were brilliant, amazing. If you want the exact lights that I've got, they're called Viltrox K60. And I say I'll put a link below if you're interested. Thanks to Viltrox, they did actually send me these when I wrote to them and said, hey, I'd love to try your tube lights. So they sent me them, so they allow me to make this review. I have had them for about 3 months, and yeah, I finally use them as like my main light source, or one of my main light sources for making portraits as a model photographer. So yeah, very pleased. Also, the great thing is because they come in like a nice case, if we're going to fit it on the screen, it actually fits in the side of my rucksack. Obviously, as you can see, slightly taller than my rucksack, but it's still fine to carry on the train going into London to teach my workshops. If you're interested in learning how to master your Leica camera, or perhaps what's more common for people that come to me, we often cover Leica cameras in the morning, and then in the afternoon we do portraiture and maybe getting some experience working with a model. If you already know how to use your Leica camera, those people tend to book me for a full day of models, and we have model in the morning, model in the afternoon. I'll put a link below to the workshops. They tend to be on request. I'm not currently doing group workshops because everyone seems to want one-to-one workshops, that like exclusive day with Mr. Leica and learning exactly how I work with a model, seeing how I work with a model, and just kind of the more nuances of actually working closely alongside me rather than just reading my ebook. Yes, my ebook covers 90% of what I teach during my workshops. The book covers all the theory, but what it can't cover is kind of real face-to-face interactions with models, which I think you can only learn when you're actually there on the ground doing it. Sundeep is actually one of my success stories, same as people like Thomas, who I also taught, also one of my patrons. Both of those came from multiple workshops, and now both of them are now arranging their own photo shoots without me, so I'm now no longer needed. But I'm still in contact with both of them regularly, and Thomas is now a great friend that I also travel with. You've probably seen him in other videos. So with that, the conclusion, it doesn't really matter which of these 75mm lenses you use. As long as you know how to light a model, you'll get fantastic images. With that said, I will do a follow-up video for the 75mm Sunlux when I next get to test one. So if you want to see that, feel free to subscribe, and I'll put a link to the newsletter below if you don't yet get the newsletter. Thanks for watching. If you lasted to the end, thanks for my amazing patrons, and hope to catch you in the next video.